Greetings and salutations, sports fans. Welcome back to the Fumble After the Dance special. I'm your host, Jackie Ray. Also here with CK2K. Well, David, that's his call sign. His name is Chris Clark.
Yes.
I'm Jackie Ray. My call sign is at JRay the Fanatic. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and follow us every single week because we're going to be here until this is over. I actually really enjoyed tonight. Not that I haven't enjoyed the other nights, but Chris has his Knicks thing to talk about. I have the reason why MJ is not my GOAT to talk about. But we learned a lot in episode 5. Or is it episode 5? What number are we on?
5. Yeah, we had 5 and 6
tonight. 5 and 6. 5 and 6. Okay. I might have jumped ahead slightly, but that's a whole nother story. But episode 5 and
ESPN.
5 and 6.
Hello.
Yeah. Ooh,
get her. Come get her.
But we learned a lot, but it started out kind of on a sad note. I mean, this Kobe situation for me, I don't know about for you guys, but for me, every time I hear his voice, it just triggers the waterworks for me. But to hear Jordan call him, he called him baby Laker boy, right?
Laker boy, little Laker boy. That's what he called him.
Little Laker boy.
Yeah.
So sweet. How did you feel when you saw that whole? Oh, so sad. How'd you feel about that?
I honestly was good. Like I was able to enjoy it without thinking about, of course, what happened with Kobe until bearded Kobe started speaking. And then I was like, because like when they were doing the whole back and forth, when the whole Eastern Conference locker room was tearing up Kobe, I thought it was hilarious. It was great. When they passed each other in the locker room, it was great. But then the moment bearded Kobe, President Kobe, like that's when it hit, and I'm like, dang.
Yeah.
Especially knowing that this was probably his last interview that he had before he passed. It's just like, it was that's what made it rough.
Let's go on to some of the other things in this episode.
Good episode.
Fun fact before we get into all the reasons that this episode is my favorite, because it just kind of solidifies my no GOAT for you. But the shoe deal was a dope aspect of this first episode, because we kind of learned that at that time Converse was the number one shoe at the time. MJ wanted to be with Adidas, and Nike was a startup. Like in my head, I'm like, I guess I just thought Nike was always just Nike. The fact that they were like a startup was crazy to me. And the fact that $150,000 for a player was huge at the time. MJ got $250,000 and they were like, oh my God. And he got his first shoe, and off top, they wanted to call it Air Jordan. I was like, so he just came in, just killing the game. That's crazy.
That's insane.
That's crazy.
Now, I'm an Adidas head. I love Nike, of course, but I've been brought up an Adidas head. A lot of my favorite players wore Adidas growing up watching basketball. So I knew about the story for a while ago. I don't know if people watch the documentary Sneakerheads. Watch the documentary, really inside. So when I found out that for the first time that he was almost on Adidas, I was like, imagine all of this being flip-flopped where Adidas was at the top of the totem pole and all that stuff. And I was also thinking about LeVar Ball.
And what about him?
Look, because while they were talking about the shoe deal, they also went to, because it's set at 1998. So when they were talking about his last game in the Garden wearing the ones, but he was also talking about his feet were bleeding. He was making jokes that shoe making back in 88 or 85 is way different than it is right now. So all that kind of stuff, I was like, I see LeVar. Look, there's some hope right there, man. Like it doesn't start off great.
That made me wonder, because if your feet were bleeding when you wore them, and at the end, what was happening at your feet when you first put them on?
Because he wore for a whole season.
They couldn't have all of a sudden it got bad. What they were is what they were, right? So I wonder. We saw that Spike Lee he directed the first, like, Mike, was it that commercial?
No. It was
it's got to be the shoes. Is it the this? Is it the that? Yeah. So Spike Lee directed that. Now Spike Lee is very much a social activist, and so in my head, I wonder if he knew then what he knows now, would he have directed that? Because some of you might not know the impact that the MJ shoe had on the inner cities, in the hood, in our communities, was both very positive because it gave kids someone to look up to, but very negative because all of a sudden violence would ensue over these shoes. And MJ has never said anything about that. He's never tried to address it.
Well, we joke a lot on the live talking about the famous quote that wasn't a quote, is MJ saying F the kids, and that is the exact reason why that quote came to fruition. We say quote, he never said it, but his lack of saying anything was saying that, you know what I'm saying?
No, it's typical MJ, and he just proved that he was all about his money, and he proved it again in the 92 Olympics when he would he didn't want to wear the Reebok logo.
Yeah, I like that one though.
You do.
This one I was for, especially the way he covered it. Come on.
The way he covered it, I thought it was cool. But in my head, I'm like, okay, so where were these people who are all mad at Colin Kaepernick for kneeling? Why wouldn't they say, how dare you use the American flag to, further your financial gains? You know what I mean? Like, where y'all at? Very, maybe they were just kids then at the time. But
we're in a more sensitive time right now too, Jackie. We also got to remember that.
That's true. We saw the whole Isaiah Thomas not getting on the Olympic team, which is blasphemous to me because he definitely, as he said, had the skill set. He should have definitely been there. Shaq should have been there too, but that's another story for another day. Yes. We see MJ on one token say, regardless of the fact that I hate him, Isaiah Thomas is one of the best point guards of all time. But he didn't not say it. Jordan was like, who's going to be there? And then the man was like, well, who you think is going to be there is not going to be there. So you don't get a pass just because you didn't say his name. The guy knew who you were talking about.
Yeah.
Petty.
Super petty. And then he even one-upped it when they did their little Q&A or whatever. He's like, no Isaiah questions. No Isaiah questions.
Right.
Yeah, it's all petty. Yeah.
Now, here's the other part of why MJ will never be my GOAT. Because it seems like we didn't learn it was bigger than basketball until LeBron got here. But it's always bigger than basketball. So MJ, North Carolina, there is this politician who's running, who is the first Black politician of that time. I don't remember his name, but I do remember the name of the born-again, openly racist dude that was running against him. His name was Jesse Helms. Now, they had asked... Barack Obama, one of my favorite people in the entire world, because he says things so much more eloquently than all of us. And he kind of painted it as saying that, for at that time, with all the influence that Michael Jordan had, a simple endorsement probably would have pushed this Harvey guy, I believe it's his name, over the edge. MJ was like, well, Republicans wear shoes too, which Jesse Helms, this born-again racist, was a Republican. To me, when you know that kids are literally killing each other in the street over your shoes, and you have a moment like this where you can kind of turn the tide to actually help the community where you're from, and you choose to say nothing for financial gain, you're just not my guy. Just not my guy. But I like this episode. I thought it was really, the music in this, seeing a young Spike Lee was crazy. Hearing Jordan say that one of his favorite places to play is Madison Square Gardens. It was just a really enlightening episode. But let's get into the next episode. I'm gonna let Chris take this one away.
Yeah, a lot of the same. I think this one, they went in a lot on the gambling. We'll get to that in a second. But the beginning, it was probably one of my favorite parts because, of course, in '93, when in my dad's mind the greatest Knicks team ever built was playing, I was at the time only 2 years old, so I could only know so much about what's going on. But of all my history of watching basketball, the '90s was what punched into my brain, and the '93 team was always the team I knew about. And once I started watching basketball and started caring, that was the team that I was always learning about. My mom too. My mom, huge Knicks fan too, '93 Knicks and blah, 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 blah. So when we finally got to see this, and I love how they set us up. Shout out to ESPN for finally giving the Knicks just 5 seconds of fame, especially coming after all of these years of the Bad Boys Pistons and the battles between them and the Bulls. Right after the Bulls went over that hoop, then the Knicks, who were in a very similar situation as like the Bulls, I'll say, where they were upcoming because they were very young and they were hungry and they were green to everything. As you saw, the Knicks took an early 2-0 lead. And that's where the story ends because I don't want to talk about the rest. But then, of course, a lot more opened up after that second game where they won in New York. That's when the controversies and the like Mike started to take a little bit of a break because we started to see a little bit of the other side of Michael Jordan. And you saw that played a little bit in the beginning, you know, how he's very competitive and there's nothing wrong with that, but he was competitive in everything. And of course, that also went over to the gambling and went over to like golf and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So right after that Game 2 loss in New York, him and his pop went down to Atlantic City, where they were out gambling, drinking, smoking cigars till what he said. And it's funny because he said like 3 different times. He was like, you know, like 11:30, 12, 1 o'clock the latest.
1 o'clock.
I was like, yo, MJ. Which one was like it, man? Which one was it? Yeah. Regardless, but in his words, he was, you know, they were out until about midnight. They got back and it was no big deal. But this opened that can of worms of, does MJ have a gambling problem? Because then that also shed light on the situation that he had with Slim. Now, I don't know about y'all watching this, but if you know a dude named Slim, you got to tread lightly with the kind of business you going on back and forth with a man named Slim, because that never ends well. That's why I'm saying Slim Shady for a reason. MJ got pulled into that, and it was a whole thing that led to the media who were just as quick to love and praise Michael Jordan. We saw all the endorsements and all the commercials and the rah-rah in episode 5. To now they're just as quickly Michael Jordan this, Michael Jordan not a role model, Michael Jordan can't do this. Is he, you know, worried too much about his personal life and drinking alcohol and that he's not paying attention to basketball anymore? We don't talk about it, but in that Game 3, even though MJ had 22 and 11, he shot 3 of 18 from that night. Scottie Pippen led the Bulls to win that Game 3 game against the Knicks, which started their 4 games in a row. And then even going further into that interview he had with Ahmad Rashad where he had the glasses, it felt like he tried to tiptoe around the questions around the gambling. Am I alone on that? Did you feel like there was just a lot of holes in that conversation?
A lot of holes. And here's the thing, and this is, when I was watching this, I thought, my dad used to tell me, love and winning cover a multitude of sins, right? So the fact that they won that game is why we can kind of skirt past that. But the reality is Scottie Pippen won that game for 100%. Them. So because MJ wasn't himself. So then we really didn't have to talk about it. But nobody, I don't care, even if you can fly through the air, if you got home at 1 o'clock in the morning because you were out drinking and gambling, when you are in the middle of trying to set up this legacy, you have a problem, period. Because especially when we know how competitive you are and you're the win at all cost guy, the win at all cost guy is the guy that is at home, maybe watching video of his competitor, the defense, learning, you know, or thinking of that's the win at all cost guy. The win at all cost, that you don't go to a casino and gamble till 1 o'clock in the morning. And we know it's 1 o'clock in the morning because he was like 11, 12. Maybe 1, you know what I mean? So we know it's the later one. Yeah. It does indicate a problem, and the reason, but his problem is different than if you and I had that problem, right? Because we don't have the finances to make it not be a problem.
That's the thing.
And that's the only reason it didn't get out of hand for him. But I would venture a guess that that's probably still something he struggles with to some extent today. That's not something that just goes away.
Yeah, I 100% believe that. Strike against the media was over. They go against Charles Barkley and the Suns. And I love that Charles Barkley got some love because we've been talking about it here on the lives. You know, Draymond going a little disrespectful on Chuck. Now, I know analyst Chuck, I got my beef with him, but we got to remember Chuck was a beast back in the day. And it was good that he got his love in this MVP. But the problem with Michael Jordan is any little thing drives him to want to beat the other team. And the problem was with this, Charles Barkley was the reigning MVP, so he was mad about that. And then he went in on the Suns. But what I loved was when they had Game 4 in their grasp, the Suns went in and tore them up, leading to them to having to go to Phoenix to have a Game 5 where MJ said his speech like, yo, I just packed one suit. We're going out here. We're wrapping this up in 5, and we're calling it a series. And I respect that. I love that. And that just shows what, as far as the basketball player, the greatness that is Michael Jordan. But with all that aside, do you really feel like we can hide all the things that were talked about in both episodes from the personal life and just glorify the basketball and be okay with that? Or should we need to keep them accountable?
Let me say something super controversial here.
Please.
Because the short answer is yes. Because I still listen to R. Kelly. Because I think R. Kelly music is great. I think R. Kelly, the man, needs to be locked away for the rest of his life. But I cannot take away the magic of his music. Same with Michael Jackson, whatever you think of him. So I think everybody who was like, okay, well, those are his personal problems. They are his personal problems. But there's no way you can, even though he's not my personal GOAT, you can't deny the magic and the legacy, and that he literally changed the game. You cannot deny that regardless of what happened in his personal life. So the short answer is yes. I think you can absolutely just exalt the basketball part of it and leave the other stuff alone.
Okay.
Yes.
But what did Twitter say?
All right. Let's get to some Twitters. Now I sound old. Let's get to the Twitter.
Get to the Twitter.
Okay, so Donovan Mitchell posted this. I think this is so cute. He said, I just peeped MJ had his own office in the team locker room. Did you see that?
Yes, he did. In the back.
How is that even a thing?
Yo, he had the little drawer with the tickets.
Yes.
It's like, what is going on? Yeah, man, it's different.
Okay, so Trae Young tweeted, Kobe was my MJ, and with the praying hands and crying emoji. See, it's so
that's what I'm saying.
Factual. It's such a factual statement. So DeMar DeRozan says sports will be appreciated at an all-time high after this and played at even a higher level. Mixtape says, gather around, y'all. Let's laugh at the Oh, Chris, I'm sorry. I didn't read that one all the way through.
What'd he say?
He said, it's a mannequin pointing at another mannequin and the other one's cringing, and it says, let's all laugh at the Knicks. I'm so sorry. You okay over there?
Next comment.
So this one is from Ball Don't Stop. An Eastern Conference locker room full of legends at the topic of conversation was a 19-year-old Kobe Bryant who wasn't even a starter on the Lakers yet. That's when you know you different. # The Last Dance. Oh,
that's what I love that point. In episode 5, that was so fun to hear them all going in. Little Laker boy, that little boy, I'm gonna teach you to put that defense as a part of the game and all that. It was great. It was so cool.
Bleacher Report said, I truly hate having discussions about who would win one-on-one. You heard fans saying, hey Kobe, you'd beat Michael Jordan one-on-one. And I feel like, yo, what you get from me is from him. This is from Bleacher Report. And when they said Kobe said, it's a picture that Bleacher Report said. It's the quote from Kobe. But let me read it to you again.
No, I'm mad at not you. It's Bleacher Report. They got some nerve to post that picture. They the one that starts these conversations.
That's so true.
You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all got some nerve. Like, what? How am I supposed to take that serious? Sorry. Great point made, but Bleacher Report, the wrong person to be saying that. Or wrong platform.
So true. But nonetheless, it was another great 2 episodes yet again. And once again, y'all nailed it with this soundtrack. And we got a glimpse of Prince sitting on the sideline. I'm a huge Prince fan. So beautiful. He was sitting next to Spike Lee. Yes, I love these 2 episodes. Chris, you have any final thoughts about these 2 episodes?
I love how people still found a way to hit on my Knicks, but regardless, 93 Knicks, baby. Glad we got our shine. That's all I got.
Yay. All right, you guys. Once again, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you can keep up on all the latest from the Fumble. Make sure you're back here with us on Monday and the whole entire week for the live show, because we're going to keep you up on some news. There's some gossip floating around that I really hope we can avoid this week, but you'll have to just tune in to see what that is. Once again, I'm Jackie Ray. You can follow me on all social media at Jerry the Fanatic. Chris?
It's your boy Chris. You can find me everywhere at CK2K.
All right, we will see you guys next Sunday for After the Last Dance.
Yes.